Hello, friends. Welcome to another Coach's Corner. I'm Gina Ramirez, a licensed therapist and certified health coach, and I talk everything health and wellness from the mind, the body, and the behavior. And I'm here with my friend, Cathy Carroll, today. All month long, we're talking about working women and productivity, if you haven't heard already. And I'm so excited to be able to invite friends, other coaches, professional in corporate space, to come on the Coach's Corner and talk about their favorite productivity hack for you. So welcome, Cathy. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you help?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really pleased to be here. I am a leadership coach, and I'm also an author of a book that just came out. It's called Hug of War: How to Lead a Family Business with Both Love and Logic. And how I got to this work, I actually grew up in a family business, and then I spent 20 years in the corporate world. I was a pension actuary, and then I got an MBA, and then I spent several years, 12 years in the travel industry. And then in 2009, my father sucked me back into our family business. So I got back into the family business space, and that's when I realized how profoundly different leadership is in a family business than in a corporate environment. And there are certainly pros and cons to both, but I have lots of experience in both now. And I chose to focus my leadership coaching on family business leaders for obvious reasons, I suppose.
Yeah, such an interesting little niche, like we were just talking about before we went live. And yeah, you've seen it all, I'm sure. You've heard it all.
I've
And
written about it all.
yeah, right. And
Right.
you definitely have to be good at productivity, efficiency, do when you're doing all the things that you've got to do. And I'm sure you're teaching some of these things as you go into these family businesses too, so that other people can learn how to be as efficient and productive.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of the things I enjoy most about the work that I do is
Mhm.
helping people achieve their goals. Mhm.
Yeah. So tell us about your technique, your favorite hack for working women, especially.
Well, this is an unusual one that I'm going to share. The typical ones might be urgent, important, those kinds of hacks.
Yep.
Getting clear on priorities. But this one I've taken a little bit of a left turn, and I'm kind of excited to share it with you. It's the concept of polarities. And polarities are opposites. They are like in a leadership context, you might have support and challenge as two different leadership styles, or bold and humble as two different leadership styles. And although they're different and they're opposite, there's value in both. So, what I'd love to do is talk about each leader's uh, favorite strength there, and then we'll go see if there's a blind spot that's related to that strength. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm your guinea pig for today. So
You are a good sport, Gina. All right, should I share the reveal the big secret?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, terrific. So I'm going to invite everyone to think about the strength or leadership strength that they're the most proud of. Something that you'd love to see on your tombstone, like something that you just really associate your identity with. And think about the great things about that leadership strength. In fact, what's one that comes to mind for you? What's one of the strengths?
Well, I thought about this because full disclosure, I got the questions ahead of time. So I've been, chewing on this for a little bit. And one for me is that I am a lifelong learner. I love to dive deep into a topic and like take the 10,000-foot view of whatever topic I'm looking at, especially when it comes to health and wellness. So I just kind of geek out on science and information and going deep in those areas.
Well, you and I share a love of learning, so I'm so glad you brought that in because that's one of my favorite things to do as well. And it's hard for those of us who really love to learn. It's hard to think about how that could ever be a problem, like how that could ever become a strength overused, right? Like, what's wrong with learning? However, I'm going to invite you to think about what is the feedback you get when you're in the overuse of that love of learning.
Yeah, I think when I share whatever it is that I'm learning, I can overshare, if that makes any sense, to where it might be confusing or sharing too much too soon.
Mhm.
Instead of kind of dribbling it out, it just is like, well, let me tell you about how wonderful this thing is and why you need it. And yeah, all the things that it'll do for you. And no, people don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I have that same challenge with polarities. I just want to tell everyone that will listen all about polarity, and it's not a simple concept. It takes a little time.
Right.
So yeah, so I have that same bugaboo. All right, so you get feedback. Yeah, what is you get that feedback that you're yeah, when you're in the overuse, what impact does it have on your productivity when you're in the overuse of that love of learning?
Well, going deep into whatever topic I'm going deep into means I'm like ignoring everything else around me pretty much. So yeah, I do have that problem.
Yeah.
So
So it
things don't get done, in other words, that
yeah,
probably should get done, or I'm ignoring some other things because I'm just so focused in on this one.
on this one. Yeah, that's such a great example. So, what would you need more of in order to stay in the upsides of the love of learning and not fall into the overuse of the love of learning?
I think I need better organization in how I'm sharing my knowledge of what I'm learning, of what I love to do. Because I feel like if I, and I don't know, this is maybe overusing it again, but this may be, I don't know, you tell me. But if I feel like if I could just organize the information a little bit better and drip it out instead of, you know, let me verbally vomit all over you, that might be better.
Great. So instead of just going blah 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 blah, this is what's so great, take it all in. You might figure out a strategy for communicating it with a little
Mhm.
bit more strategic intent. You might dribble it out over time. You
Right.
might gauge how people are reacting over time. Yeah. And so knowing that that's an alternative approach that you could take, what comes up for you as a potential barrier to doing that? Like what's at risk if you actually did slow down and change your way of communicating?
Well, it would take slowing down, which I'm also not a fan of. Yeah, it would take some intentionality on my part to slow down and to organize and really be strategic in how I'm communicating things out,
Mhm.
whether it's social media, whether it's in a blog, whether it's in a newsletter. I mean, there's so many ways to convey information. And I feel like we're all just saturated. It's like information overload. I don't know what your email inbox looks like, but I think I'm in the 9,000s at this
Oh my
point.
goodness, my
I
goodness.
know,
Yeah.
I know. Don't send me an email. So yes, it's not good, but all of that information coming in means we just get overloaded and then nothing sticks. So,
Yeah.
and I know this intellectually in my head, so
Yeah.
it would behoove me to slow it down and maybe get organized.
Mhm. And if you did slow it down, what's the worst fear that would arise? Like what's if what would people say about you if you slowed it down?
Yeah, I thought about this too because this is it's so interesting, this idea of polarities and how you take the strength and then, well, what's the weakness over here on this side? Like, what are people going to say about me? And I feel like slowing it down would almost mean like, does she know what she's talking about? Or I've heard this all before. Like, this is nothing new. I'm not getting anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so the fear is people start dropping off. Like, well,
Mm.
why am I still listening to her?
Yeah. Oh, that's just so rich. And so when you start to have that fear, you probably jump right back over to your love of learning and
Yeah.
blathering on and telling everybody, right? And it creates this interesting dynamic because the strength, the upsides of your strength, these are how typically, if this worked right, these are the things that you want to be known for, right? These are
Hmm.
the things that you how you want to be seen, right? And when you're in the overuse of that strength, of that love of learning, then you're in this blathering on and overloading people with too much information. And that
Yeah.
might be a blind spot of yours. That might be how other people perceive you, right? So then you say, well, gosh, I guess I could bring a different way to communicate. I could bring more strategy and piece it out a little bit differently and slow down. I could really slow down. And those could be areas for growth and development for you. They could be
Mhm.
missing untapped skills, right? And what happens is then we start to think about, all right, I could do that untapped skill, but then, oh my gosh, people are going to think I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And so that's what you don't want to be known for, and those are the things you
Right.
don't like in other people. So it creates like cycle, right? So you swing back over to your
Uh-huh.
blessing and your love of learning, and you just kind of cycle through this pattern, and that is such an interruption to productivity, right? So I'd love if people re-listen to this and actually ask themselves, what is the strength that they're most proud of, and then walk through that process. What are the steps? Like,
Mhm.
what makes it so great? Then what feedback do you get when you're in the overuse of that strength? How does that impact your productivity? What do you need more of? And then what's at risk if you do more of what you need more of? And then once you've identified that risk, then the next step in the process is to design some micro experiments to test the assumption that if you actually slowed things down and communicated a little bit differently, that people would think you don't know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
if you do a series of micro experiments, you might learn that you're far more productive and far more effective in your communication. You also might learn that you're not, which is great information. Great thing
Right.
to
Yeah.
collect, right? And so it's just a micro experiment, and in a safe to fail kind of environment. If
Mhm.
you do it in a way that's small and it's okay to fail, it's okay to fail, right? And so you can continue to learn and continue to test, and that might be a way to step into strengthening that corresponding muscle.
Yeah, I always say it's an experiment. I mean, I'm just experimenting to see what is going to work and what isn't working and what people like, what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear. So, yeah, just because it's interesting to me does not mean everybody wants to know.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
Really great point. Yeah. So that's my productivity hack for the group.
Yeah, very interesting to do this little exercise and to really dig deep. I really want to encourage people to take those questions and to think about them. Not just like what's the first thing that comes to your mind, but really chew on it, sit with it, journal it. That's what I did, and it's helpful. It's really helpful to think about, okay, now what's the next step, and where can I make some adjustments, because it is hard when we're doing a million things, and most working women have a lot on their plate. They have a lot of, plates in the air, and trying to balance all of that, which we know is not possible. We're never balanced. We're always balancing.
Mm.
So taking that approach to saying, okay, where's the polarity? And then what's the next step from here that I can get more efficient and better with my time and maybe have more time at the end of all of this. But, on the other flip side of that is having it well received, I think is so huge, right? Because this is a communication piece. Well, at least for me, my example was about communication, right? And so having that dialogue and being able to be effective in communicating to other people, huge when it comes to leadership, when it comes to productivity in a business. Oh my gosh, it's huge.
Yeah. Sometimes it's as simple as go slow to go fast, right? Take the time to actually answer those questions, do some journaling, do some reflection, and that might
Mhm.
actually massively improve your productivity in the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, where can people find you, find more about what you do?
You can find me at my website, which is www.legacyonward.com, legacyonward.com. And if you want to hear more about the book, it's legacyonward.com/hug-of-war.
And the book is focused on what? Can you tell us just
The
a
book is
snippet?
about the leadership polarities in a family business. It's actually about all the drama that's in a family business, all the pain, all the anguish, some of the joy, and the polarity framework is what puts into context why it's so incredibly challenging to be a leader in a family business.
Oh, how interesting. Yes. Well, I know it's going to be well received out there. Thank you so much, Cathy, for coming on to the Coaches Corner this week.
Thank you,
And
Gina.
I will definitely link to all of the website and wherever you are on social in the newsletter. So stay tuned, friends. And I will see you next week on another Coaches Corner.